Thank you for joining me. My name is Diana Rockwell of Rising to Excellence Admin Training. This video is designed with the administrative professional in mind and the unique job duties and tasks we are expected to do every day. With over 40 years of experience as a secretary, administrative assistant, and executive assistant, I trust my experiences and skill sets can help you excel in your chosen or fallen into profession. I appreciate your choosing to spend the next few minutes with me as we discuss. Let's start with the basics. In today's session, we will cover what are the basics. I'll share the top 10 skills desired in the workplace, what's next, and how to excel in your profession. Being an administrative assistant can be a rewarding, fulfilling, and even fun career, or it can just be a job. The difference may surprise you. The skills needed to be a successful admin are not easy, but the time and effort, you'll be at the top of your field and sought after by everyone in your company. So what are the basics, and what do I need to know to excel? The main things employers look for when interviewing candidates are education and experience. When I graduated from business school, my certificate was called a steno certificate. There's no associate's degree and certainly no bachelor's degree at that point in office practice. Typically, a student took 2 years in high school. They took business math and the required state courses, and they were ready to work in an office the day after graduation. Over the last 40 years, much of these requirements have changed, and associate's degrees are available, as are bachelor degrees, in organizational management and other similarly termed programs. Many jobs require a degree. You can always self-educate with lynda.com, which is now owned by LinkedIn. There's also YouTube, Udemy, or Office Dynamics, and of course, Rising to Excellence, admin training. There are many more opportunities, some free and some for paid. If you wish, you can choose a specialty like legal or medical, whose jobs usually pay a little more because of the specialized training. Always keep track of the courses you take by keeping the certificates or logging them onto a spreadsheet with dates and who gave the training. You can always sit for a civil service test, clerk typist 1, 2, and I think 3 in New York State. I've proctored these exams, and math is a huge component, and they tend to encompass copious amounts of filing logic and library work as well, but they don't allow you a calculator. Experience. Try volunteering for a charity or get some experience. Unfortunately, that tends to be grunt work, and no one wants to spend any time with you showing you the ropes, but it's a good way to put some practical experience on your resume. Join a professional organization. They're generally cheaper than most other professions, and most offer a yearly conference. During the pandemic, many of them went virtual, which not only saves a little money on registration, but you get to stay home and save the travel expenses as well. I'm sure you've heard over and over to dress for success. Always dress appropriately for your position or the one step higher and in the atmosphere of your office. For example, if you're working in a high-profile legal office, you should buy suits and dresses. If you work for Harley Davidson, you should invest in jeans and motorcycle boots. Most offices are somewhere in between. My office is comfortable with dress slacks, blouses, jackets, or sweaters. You can dress down a little when students are not on campus, but being in the president's office suite, we may have a multi-million-dollar donor drop by at any time, so sneakers and jeans are not encouraged. Invest in your office in an office reference guide like the Gregg or the IAAP guidebook. I've referred to mine countless times over the years, and it was well worth the investment just for the correct way to address dignitaries and properly form those difficult sentences. Use online resources like Dictionary, Thesaurus, Grammarly, and there's a dozen more. For how-tos, I like to use Chron, that's CHRON, like in chronological, to go directly to the software's website for step-by-step instruction. Top 10 skills, like Letterman, only better. You may be surprised to see that most of the items on this list are soft skills or interpersonal skills. We used to think that we had to know Word and Excel inside and out in order to get a good job. That has changed somewhat to be mostly soft skills. The prevailing thought is that your employer can teach computer program skills, but they can't teach attitude. And I wholeheartedly agree. The exact tasks that an admin assistant must be responsible for will vary between jobs, but will usually include communicating with internal and external contacts using a range of platforms, for example, telephone, email, or social media. Using a computer to type a range of documents from correspondence to detailed reports. Ordering stationery and other office supplies. Using office machinery to print, copy, and collate documents. Diary management. This may include making travel or accommodation arrangements. Arranging meetings, preparing agendas, and taking minutes or notes. Opening the distributing posts. So it's not just mail anymore. If you have a fax machine or if you have centralized email for a group, you would be the one dispersing them. Payment requests and record keeping. Organization skills are a given at any job, but especially more so for an admin. They expect the admin to be organized and able to communicate quickly and succinctly in order to keep the boss on track. If you're disorganized, it will allow your boss to miss deadlines, meetings, or not be prepared for important meetings. You do not want to make your boss look bad to his boss or investors or major clients. Communication. Admin assistants are often the first point of contact in a business. They apply for admin assistant jobs. You will need to show prospective employers that you can communicate in a way that matches the company's voice and culture. Both verbal and written communication are equally as important. I worked with a woman some years ago, and she was a lovely person and very good at written communication. However, her verbal communication was difficult, and I actually felt bad for her. I would listen to her on the phone, and I knew she was talking to wealthy clients because that's who we had clients of. While she stammered and corrected her grammar so it would be perfect. For example, she was explaining about her two daughters. Both graduated magna cum laude. One was a nuclear lab technician, and she was describing her. She used the term oldest, but because there were only two daughters, the word should have been older and not oldest. So she corrected herself and made a poor impression on the client. The coworker had been trained as a teacher and was a stickler for certain things. However, her skills were 20 years outdated and conflicted with modern acceptable use. Notice that business writing and technical writing are listed separately. They are, in fact, two totally different styles of writing. Business writing is composing emails, reports, memos, etc. Remember, you cannot convey tone in an email unless you don't want to, and then people start perceiving your tone as something you didn't intend. I work with several people who have accounting jobs or accounting backgrounds. Their emails tend to be stringent and right to the point. I'm sure they don't want to waste time, and they're just trying to be efficient, but they come off to others as being rude and demanding. In person, they're perfectly lovely. However, their emails are rather rough. Compared to creative writing, which would be a style used for articles or short stories or novels, business writing is much more to the point without unnecessary descriptors like the color of the dress someone is wearing or the lushness of the grass and the flowers. Technical writing is used for procedure manuals or how-tos of where to click and how to get a task done on a specific computer program. I worked in it for over 10 years, so we use technical writing quite often when deploying new technology or upgrading equipment like desk phones or copiers. Time management. The problem solving is core to the job, no matter the industry. After you've worked in the field for a while, you'll notice patterns that repeat. Keep the resolutions in the back pocket to pull out when needed at a later date. Work on a system that helps you keep yourself on track. Use your calendar for long-term reminders. Use your inbox as a pending while you wait for a response. Keep a to-do list updated, even daily, with items or projects with a longer deadline. Break up bigger projects into segments and work on them a little bit at a time. Schedule tasks on your computer with time blocked out. You may be able to go to another location if you really need to get a project done in quiet. Set your phone to do not disturb and put an away message on your email. This sets expectations and lets others know you're not immediately available. Not every job requires full bookkeeping, but many require a specific subset. I enter and process requisitions for purchase orders and vouchers for payment, which is only half of the bookkeeping process. Attention to detail is also a staple in the admin's tool chest. Many admin assistant tasks require accurate data entry and word processing skills. Making a mistake on a budgeting spreadsheet or sending client correspondence to the wrong recipient can cause serious problems. So getting the finer details right is paramount. Reading and following instructions is a simple yet effective way to show attention to detail and why I always recommend checking and rechecking everything. Cross-referencing that totals match from one page to the next. Always check your reply or your reply all settings. It's easy to hit buttons and not check to make sure the email goes to Kevin C rather than to Kevin F. A famous journalist, Linda Ellerbee, she was in the forefront in the late 80s, maybe early 90s, was once fired from a job because she accidentally sent a complaining/venting email about her boss to her boss rather than to her friend. Another example was when an executive had a temp starting and was sharing his calendar, but the process wasn't working. The email didn't get sent, so she couldn't add the calendar to hers. He tried it 2 or 3 times and it still didn't work. Then he discovered he was sending it to the wrong Lauren K. The ability to work independently is a huge skill right now when people are still working remotely. Your boss does not have time to follow up on all of their direct reports all of the time. And I hope you don't want to be micromanaged, which few of us do. So my suggestion would be to keep a to-do list and a log of the high points of the tasks you're completing during the day. I keep it in my steno pad where I write down phone messages, reminders for my boss and for myself. I use a system of check marks and arrows to specify if items yet to be done or has been completed. Over the pandemic, I'd seen salaried people posting videos and pictures of them at the park with their small children in the middle of the day. While I understand they do not punch in and out, I would expect them to work their specified hours per week. It does look suspicious when high-paid executives are going on hikes in the mountains while you slave away punching in and out for lunch from your living room or your bedroom and waiting till the end of the day to run your errands. By keeping track of your tasks done, you'll be able to respond to that boss who asks, "What did you do today?" Conversely, we are also expected to be able to work in a team setting. Teamwork sounds easy, but all the participants' personalities can get in the way. Some admin assistants work within a team of admin staff, whereas others are closely responsible for providing admin support to a business. In either case, you will need to understand the objectives of the business and each team working within it. This knowledge can be used to evaluate how your role and individual objectives contribute to the bigger picture. While teamwork is important, it's also important for admin assistants to work well independently, as we discussed earlier, manage their own workload, and work and take the initiative when necessary. You will need to be self-motivated and able to work autonomously. Problem solving. With so many conflicting demands placed upon them, admin assistants have to think fast when focused on a problem. Additionally, when colleagues are faced with a problem, they will often turn to their admin assistant for help. Typical issues for an admin assistant could include supply problems, speaking to an unhappy customer, rearranging meetings, meeting rooms or conference lines at short notice, or arranging cover when a colleague is unexpectedly absent. When problem solving, admins have to be both assertive and professional. Creative thinking will sometimes be necessary. However, these skills will develop over time. Admins who have been in a post for several years will have the experience to better anticipate problems that may arise. I've seen my fair share of people in and out of my department over the years who looked great on paper, but for one reason or another didn't fit into the team. I've seen braggers whose knowledge didn't match their resume. I've seen people who just want to get promoted and advance their career and throw their team members under the bus or take credit for others' work. I've seen slackers who still brag about how much they do, only to find out that they are lying. What's next? How can I advance my career? So what's next? Book learning only goes so far. There's no comparison to firsthand experience. Here are some things that helped me get to the executive suite. Get to know your boss's preferences. Set boundaries if necessary. Keep your skill sets updated. Keep a file with information on classes you've attended and examples of your best work. Maintain confidentiality. Mistakes are a part of growing. And to be a rockstar admin, get certified with Mouse, CAP, or PACE. Learn how your boss thinks to anticipate their needs. Copywriting styles and signature. Anticipate your boss's needs. Be prepared and on time for meetings. Check and double check everything. And I mean everything. How to excel. Enhancing your skill sets. I want to interject this quote by Walt Disney because I think it's very appropriate for the admin career. The way to get started is to quit talking and begin doing. If you're talking, you can't be doing. Very interesting. How to excel. You need to master your profession. You need to ask your boss and ask your colleagues. So what do we want to know is how to excel without spending 40 years learning how. In my last performance evaluation, my boss was astounded that I thought to anticipate his needs for specific meetings like interviews. The evening before or the morning of, I printed out the resume of a person being interviewed and I left it in a prominent spot. This happened to be on the conference table where he was going to have his Zoom meeting. At the time, most interviews were done over Zoom, so we didn't have face-to-face meetings until we weeded out the best candidates. I also learned to put the interviews in the Zoom waiting room because he had checked his teeth after eating lunch when the first person popped up and he was caught red-handed checking for the spinach in his teeth. But when he made the comment, I had to explain to him that I'd been doing this since before he was born and we had a good laugh. But I was literally not exaggerating. At one job, we had lightning hit between our two buildings. I was working at a local church and the office was in the house next door. There was a small alley between the two buildings and that's where the lightning hit. We lost some equipment and our phone system. Both the pastor and the office coordinator were frazzled and running around like crazy, while I sat at my desk writing down a checklist of things to check and people to call. They both suddenly turned towards me and asked, "How can you be so calm?" I'd been through this type of thing before. I was 13 when my home was flooded after a hurricane and a dam broke upstream. I had raised 4 children. I'd buried a husband and almost lost another to a medical incident. This scenario was not catastrophic. No one was hurt, and the equipment is replaceable. If you can remain calm during a crisis, you'll be a very valuable employee. So mastering your profession, you'll want to be able to navigate social media, be a genuine team player, be an ambassador for your business, embrace technology. You can be a change maker by trying to streamline your tasks and eliminate the redundancies. Knowing the why, how, and the what. And you can be a leader even from your position. Ask your boss to set up one-on-one meetings regularly, whatever time frame works best for you and your industry. Have an open discussion with your boss. Don't rely on your performance evaluation to ask questions or to talk about some of the big things. Ask your colleagues. Be active in a professional organization. Discuss issues and search for those best practices. And share your favorite tips with each other. With experience, effort, and lifelong learning, you can be the rockstar admin of your office. Be confident in your skills, both interpersonal and technical, to rise among the ranks of the admins who just want a job. Be the admin with the stellar career. I do want to stress the lifelong learning. With technology growing in leaps and bounds, if you don't learn new things, you are falling behind. I found myself falling behind when I hit about 50 years old. Suddenly, the old ways seemed like the best ways, and I felt overwhelmed when thinking about setting up Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn accounts, and navigating those new things called add-ons to your regular programs. Now we have many more options than just those few. Even interpersonal skills change over time. Back in the 70s, we called each other some words that are not acceptable today. Title IX and sexual harassment were non-existent back then, and more often than not, women were harassed, and it was passed off as a joke. Although I did tell my boss that if one male customer put his arm around me one more time and squeezed my middle, I was going to punch him. The best advice I can give is to observe patterns in those around you and see where you can fill the gap or anticipate needs. One boss always gave me a task and said, "When you get the chance." It didn't take me too long to realize that what he really meant was do that right away. No book can teach you that. It's firsthand experience that teaches you how to handle these scenarios and navigate your corporate culture. Thank you very much for your time today. So that about does it for me. I appreciate your time watching and listening to Let's Start with the Basics, presented by Rising to Excellence Admin Training. My contact is provided on the last slide. We hope you join us for another webinar soon. Bye for now.